Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. Today we are going to start off back where we left off due to the power outages from the last stream on the sauropod article, and then we're going to dive into what's going on with giant Japanese salamanders over in Japan, and a new species of ice age deer that's been discovered, and possibly over into a certain new species of theropod. And we are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. So let's dive back to the Cretaceous period, very beginning. So, okay, let's scroll down a bit. Who was this guy? Urangosaurus calicensis. So, it's a species of mammalian sauropod that has been discovered over in northeastern Thailand, stemming from around, I believe, 143 million years ago, at the very beginning of the Cretaceous period. So we have many evolutionary changes occurring with different species of iguanodontids at this point, different species of stegosaurs, different species of tyrannosaurs, even, but to a lesser extent. Also, like even the ceratopsians and the ankylosaurs, pterosaurs too. So from there begins the painstaking work. Oh, wait, I think I already read that. Okay, so it's from the Fu-Crogden Formation. We have different species of dinosaurs that come from here as well. Different species of spinosaurs, possibly a bellysaurs. But in the case of Orogosaurus, the researchers realized that they were looking at something special. To the untrained eye, one sauropod vertebra can look much like another. But to a paleontologist, a vertebra can contain a great deal of detailed information. Well, I mean, the basics you have it are where are you looking at specifically on the body? Are you referring to cervical vertebrae? So specifically vertebrae or aligned along the neck, or are you looking at mainly like the different back vertebrae? So from like the upper shoulder blades or at the very base of the neck down to near the pelvis region. Then you also have like that pelvic vertebrae, and then the caudal vertebrae, which would consist of the tail. Um. Okay, so I guess, when it comes to other sauropod dinosaurs, hold on, let's take a look at this real quick, and we'll bring up some other species. So they found part of the bottom part of some, I don't know what specific vertebrae at the moment, but they found the base of it and a bit of the side. That's interesting when that occurs. And then there's a neural spine that they found most of the bottom parts, or maybe like the bottom 30%. And then the upper tip. So the shape, the arrangement of supporting ridges, the hollows where air sacs extended from the respiratory system, and the internal structure of the bone, all these details can differ significantly or minutely between different dinosaur species. Yeah, and that would definitely occur with different species of sauropods. That's how, in many cases, we're able to differentiate how, or one species of sauropod from another. Same thing would occur with different species of ankylosaurs or theropod dinosaurs. Okay, um, let's bring up Mongolosaurus. So Mongolosaurus. Now, I would say that this animal is a bit of a mystery as to specifically how large it is. And the reason that is because this animal was discovered in the early 1900s by the paleontologist Roy Chapman Andrews over in one of his expeditions in China.
Wait,
Also,
look.
yeah, yeah, that's not him. It looks like something between an iguanodontid, an early prosauropod or sauropodomorph, and looking at the back feet, can't really identify what species of dinosaur would contain that type of a foot. It's almost like somebody mixed a stegosaur foot with possibly like a hadrosaur and a very fat theropod. But yeah, this is not him. and that dromaeosaur possibly didn't coexist with him either. But this animal, this is much better. I would say the legs, though, are extremely skinny. And here's the problem. When it comes to Mongolosaurus, mo
Samantha Hugh says hi.
well, welcome aboard, Crocodilomorph. When it comes to Mongolosaurus, Roy Chapman Andrews only discovered a few teeth of this animal. I think part of the upper maxilla of the skull, so part of the upper jaw, and certain, I think, parts of different cervical vertebrae. No, not cervical. I think they were, yeah, yeah, I was thinking maybe caudal, cervical vertebrae of the neck. So when it comes to the length of this animal, it's been estimated to be somewhere between maybe 50 to 52 feet in length, or possibly somewhere around 15 to 16 meters. And looking at the overall size of this animal, it might have weighed somewhere between 15 to 20 tons. So it was a medium sized species of sauropod, and it lived over in China around 115 million years ago. So far after this new species of Mamenchosaur has been discovered. This animal does not belong to the Mamenchosaur lineage of sauropod dinosaurs. I think it's also a bit of a mystery as to what specific group it belonged to. It also doesn't seem to be, I believe, a member of Titanosauridae or Titanosauridae, um, because Titanosauridae is a very large family of sauropod dinosaurs. But specifically looking at Titanosauridae, it doesn't seem to be a member of that group, though it does share when looking at like different depictions of this animal. Yeah, a few similarities with titanosaurs and even manchosaurs, especially when it comes to the very long neck compared to its body size, but also the distinct shape of it. It doesn't really have a diplodocid sort of a look. When it comes to the skull structure, it's also not very diplodocid like. Now, you could say with different species of Mamenchosaurs,
I
like
cannot find a lot of this guy.
yeah, I think it's probably due to the mysterious look or just overall morphology of him. This really isn't bad. I do think the tail might be a bit thin, but we do have certain lineages of sauropods that did have quite thin tails, and you could say the diplodocids to an extent, but the diplodocids still had relatively long tails, whereas that reconstruction it was quite short. And I still think the legs were a bit thin. You need quite a bit of muscle to maintain 15 tons of flesh and bone. So, um, this is probably a bit better. It definitely matches a lot more with the overall size of the animal. The legs definitely look like they're capable of supporting the weight. And the tail also seems much just more aligned with the overall physique. And even when it comes to the neck, I would say the neck is a bit shorter. It almost has a bit of like a slight Chimerasauromorph sort of a morphology, but it's still drastically different. I'm trying to think of what other species, not necessarily like Rebeccasaurid sauropods. Also, let me or put in the chat what you find quite fascinating about this animal, or if you think it just looks, um,
Like every other sauropod?
yeah, like a standard sauropod, or you find it quite fascinating. I would say that I'm glad to see that there are just possibly, well, you can't see all three toes on the hind feet, but I think that that's what the artist is going for. I don't see a thumb claw unless it's supposed to be in the shadows for the front feet, and it should have that distinct thumb claw. These were not clawless sauropods. In fact, I don't know of any sauropods that were clawless. Visual examination and CT scans, okay, so back to the article, revealed that the vertebra in question had a combination of features not seen in any other species. The position and shape of the air pockets left by the dinosaur's respiratory system inside the fossil and an unusual Y shaped arrangement of bony ridges on the exterior mark the fossil as one of a kind. Interestingly, the excavation yielded several other sauropod bones nearby, including a fibula. Uh, so it's not referring to like different sauropods, just the different bones of maybe other individuals, but I would think it would be of this um same sauropod, but who knows? This would actually be a lot more um, astounding to see, but it's also good to hear that we found more of the complete skeleton. So, including a fibula, a coracoid, a cervical vertebrae, and other vertebrae that the researchers, I'm guessing the reason why um, it's mentioned just other vertebrae and nothing specific. It was probably relatively fragmented, and it's a bit of a mystery as to what specific vertebrae those little bits of bone belong to, which is fine. That the researchers say may have belonged to the same species, but none preserved features distinct enough to confidently assign them to Orogosaurus. Oh, okay. So it's possibly somebody else. That is quite mysterious. I wonder who it could be in this instance. Maybe like a Fuyangosaurus? Unless he lived slightly later into the Cretaceous, because this is at the dawn of this period. Um, okay, so I guess somebody else we could bring up as a predator. Maybe an Abelisaur, like possibly Rugops. By the way, I did mention a species of um was it I believe theropod yesterday or on the last stream called Bahariasaurus from early late Cretaceous Africa. And I mentioned that the paleontologist that discovered him from Germany, whose name was Richard Gwen, that person doesn't exist. His name is Richard Markgraf, who was digging for bones for the German paleontologist Ernst Stromer. And he found a wide variety of different species, such as Spinosaurus and Bahariasaurus, but a wide variety of others that just aren't hitting
Okay.
me at the moment.
What did you want?
Rugops, which Richard Markgraf or Ernst Stromer did not discover. Let's see, Rugops.
Oh, well, that was easy.
Um, Mainly due to the fact that it was discovered much more recently over in Niger, which is in northern Africa, back in 2004 by Paul Sereno and two other colleagues. But um, what was it? Bahariasaurus was discovered over in Egypt, which is very northeast of Niger. Okay, so this is a species of a belly saurid from whoa, okay. Yeah, he's got a lot of problems. First of all, why is he fishing? It's not that it's impossible that certain species of theropod dinosaurs that usually preyed on different species of maybe iguanodontids or smaller ceratopsians, but at this point, ceratopsians are basically non-existent in the in Africa. They will show up a bit later into the Cretaceous, but they're still rare. Um, what is it? They might be going after smaller sauropods in general. I swear there's another group. I mean, maybe even other species of theropods, but Abelisaurus was not Abelisaurus. Um, this Abelisaur rugops was likely not going after fish and has a very short skull compared to um even other different species of Abelisaurs in general. It is not a large species. I would say it's medium size for the Abelisaurs in general, pushing them around 12 to 15 feet in length, or probably pushing around 4.4 meters. Probably didn't weigh much more than maybe 15 to 1,800 pounds, or a little over 700 to 800 kilograms.
And then the next one I put up, he's in the water too.
I'm trying to well, I wonder who it is specifically. Oh, I think I know who that is, that crocodilomorph behind him. Okay, certain reconstructions of the, crocodilomorph to the right, well, both of them, kind of used to depict the animal as very terrestrial and very quick and also quite immense. This is Caprosuchus, which has also been found over in Niger back, in the early late Cretaceous.
What's with the teeth?
It does have a very distinct type of tooth structure. if you look at certain species of crocodilians today, especially saltwater crocodiles, probably even like Nile crocodiles and American crocodiles, they do have a slight bit of a similarity with their tooth structure, but it's still drastically different, and it's only like with maybe a couple of teeth or so. I might have to review my crocodile tooth structures,
Did you
but
just say crocodile?
yeah, yeah,
That's
I
a
was
crocodile?
no, I was referring to modern day crocodiles.
Oh,
Um, no, this crocodilians won't evolve at this point. Let's say it's around 98 million years ago. Probably for another 18 to 20 million years is when we start seeing the first members of alligator Toroideae evolve over in different parts of South America.
is that any better?
Though crocodiles themselves won't evolve until much later into the Cenozoic era or the time of mammals, and also around the Oligocene about 30 million years ago. No, um, though in the background is a contemporary that he coexisted with. It is either Timoraptor, a medium, well, I wouldn't say medium size. It was a large species of Carcharodontosaur, or it is simply Carcharodontosaurus itself. This Abelisaurus still has a lot of problems. The arms, which is what I meant to say with the original um, picture, the arms are very un-Abelisaur like. They should be somewhat pointing. Certain depictions have them pointing a bit towards the rear or slightly diagonally towards the ground. Um, but they also would not have these distinct long fingers and even long claws. They were quite small. They were quite stubby. Even when it comes to the upper arm or the humerus and the forearm or the ulna, this is more of like different species of carnosaurs, not so much ceratosaur, or at least these types of ceratosaurians. So the Rugops derives from a group of theropod dinosaurs called the Abelisaurids that derived from the Ceratosaurians, which first evolved about 201 million years ago during the beginning of the Jurassic, just after the massive Triassic extinction event. But this animal also has another issue, and that is when it comes to its skull structure, it is far too long. It looks much more similar to different species of allosaurs or Allosauroideae, or different species of Megalosauroideae as well. Nothing like an Abelisaurid. And I even say if you're comparing it to its close relatives like the Ceratosaurids from like Ceratosauridae, it's not even like that.
Is that any better?
This is from the 2011 documentary Planet Dinosaur. It really isn't that bad of a look for Rugops, except the arms, unless the arms of Rugops are some of the largest compared to its body size of any species of Belisaurid. They might be a little long. But besides that, it's really not a bad model. I think the tail might be a bit stiff. Um, at least in more recent reconstructions of belly swords, they tend to have more of like a graceful sort of a tail morphology. Whereas this animal, it's quite stiff. When it comes to the legs, it might be a bit large. But looking at the skull, it's not bad, except it doesn't have lips. But ignoring that, it's okay.
Wait a minute, I have a funny one.
Landscape seems fine. This looks like a Monolophosaurus. So, a species of theropod dinosaur from the late Jurassic, no, probably the mid Jurassic, about 163 to 165 million years ago. And was quite off in the family tree when it came to dinosaurs, comparing it to also different
Oh,
species of
you
Abelisaurids.
said it was Rugops?
Yeah, the Abelisaurids technically had evolved at this point. They were quite primitive, but Monolophosaurus was very far off in the Neotheropoda family tree of theropod dinosaurs. Also reaching probably somewhere around 18 feet in length or pushing around 5.2, 5.3 meters, but nothing like an Abelisaurid. Its arms were larger compared to its body size, but when it came to this type of Neotheropod, I wouldn't say they were particularly strong, but neither were really a belly swords. Though I am going to have to double check on the arm strength. Somebody asked about that on another stream before.
Hmm,
Uh,
hmm.
Also, when it comes to belly sores in general, like Monolophosaurus, for instance, has a crest on the top of its head, really focused on the center. Um, oh, am I so have there been different, like, crest additions to Rugops? Well, they're also adding feathers. That's not something you see in a lot of belly sword reconstructions. Is feathers on the animals. We don't have really any evidence for different species of a belly swords having feathers. It's very possible, considering they were theropods, that their young would have consisted of feathers, like the different members of Ceratosauridae and just the theropods in general, but probably not the adults. But what's interesting is that this is a very rare type of, yeah, morphology for Rugops. That's interesting. Wonder how old this model is. They're showing him with a full on, um, like, not exactly a Dilophosaurus. I mean, maybe if you're comparing it with the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus model, then it can be a somewhat similar crest by this instance. But gosh, who is that? Not Lilian Sternus. Yeah, I don't believe.
It doesn't say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that. Siamosaurus. Maybe that's no, it's Spinosaurus. Gosh, it's not hitting me who that specific early Jurassic theropod is that has a similar crest. It's shorter than Dilophosaurus. It's also a bit more distantly related to Dilophosaurus. Um, hmm. Okay. So interestingly, wait, let's scroll down a bit. Only the original vertebra had the anatomical fingerprint required to diagnose a new species. Other clues showed the dinosaur belonged to the Mamenchosaurids, but it wasn't any Mamenchosaurid scientists had seen before. Even that identification tells us something new about the family. Most Mamenchosaurids had been found in China. Baragosaurus tells us that this family was also present in what is now Southeast Asia during the late Jurassic, a new piece of the sauropod family tree. Wait a second. Late Jurassic? Well, I guess, yeah, you could it's kind of like the 143 million years ago being like the Jurassic Cretaceous boundary. It's just a single vertebra washed onto a floodplain and buried in silt millions of years ago. Yet the story it tells extends far beyond the animal itself. Even if it seems like just another bone to you or me, discoveries like this help paleontologists piece together how entire groups of dinosaurs evolved and spread across the ancient world. Continued discoveries from the Phu Kradung Formation and other Jurassic deposits in Southeast Asia may therefore provide important insights into the early evolutionary history and biological dispersal of mamenchosaur sauropods. So I'm guessing that's it. Hmm. Okay. Um, there is somebody else I'd like to bring up though, but maybe yeah, let's do it. It's not a dinosaur. It's another pseudosuchian, the Stomatosuchus. Oh yeah, so that's oh right. Stomatoo. Wait. Yeah. SU. There he is. Um. Oh, okay. So there. Do we still have that other picture? Oh yeah, leave that one because it has the other crocodile more. Wait, wasn't there also another picture of the Rugops? Yeah, that's not a bad reconstruction. Huh, I gotta double check on what specifically, um,
Those are
how the
feathers.
crest came to be. Oh, okay. Well, there is a bit of a protrusion there. I wonder what made them assume, unless another skull was perhaps a bit more complete, discovered with more of a crest-like structure. But what made other paleontologists, theorize that this animal had a very enhanced crest, like different species of early Jurassic theropods. So it is weird how for millions of years, that distinct type of a mutation on their head kind of disappeared from the theropod fossil record and then all of a sudden reappears in the early late Cretaceous. That is odd because after like, I'd say 165 to 163 million years ago, that type of a trait pretty much died off. You would see in different members of the megalosaur or allosaur family. Okay, you know what? I am wrong on that. The Proceratosaurs of the Tyrannosaur lineage still had a very distinct, large crest-like structure, especially if you're looking at Guanlong, Dilong, Proceratosaurus. Um, yeah, okay. I guess outside of the Coelurosaur lineage, it was pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, he wants a kiss. Why does
Yeah.
he look at a pelican?
That's, it's very possible. Also, you can see this in different species of crocodilians today. So he's a crocodilomorph, not a crocodilian, like the Caprisuchus. Um, this animal would have very likely had a somewhat sort of throat pack. So possibly during the breeding season, like different, like especially alligators will do today. They will inflate this and make a very like a somewhat mid to low frequency sound rumble, and also you will see many like ripples of water surrounding them. They're using this to intimidate other alligators in the area or male alligators and attract the females. It's very possible that this would have occurred with Stomatosuchus over in 99 million-year-old Egypt as well. So this was probably medium-sized species of crocodilomorph for the Mesozoic. It definitely wasn't small, but it had also a very distinct sort of a skull structure. It's not necessarily meant for going after larger game, or in this instance, any species of like iguanodontids or sauropods, even different types of theropods. It's really going to be focusing on different species of fish. It has a very thin jaw structure.
It looks like somebody ran over its face.
Yeah, pretty much. Stomatosuchus is a very distinct type of pseudosuchian. So this animal could still reach probably somewhere between 20 to 26 feet in length. They're pushing 6 to 8 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 2,500 to 3,000 pounds, or pushing somewhere between maybe like 13 to 1,400 kilograms. What's another thing? Oh, also, if you look at the eye structure of this animal, it's also quite distinct from a wide variety of different species of crocodilomorphs, not just crocodilians today, but even looking at other members of the Pseudosuchian lineage back from the Mesozoic, the Cenozoic,
Again, pelican.
earlier Cenozoic. We're in the Cenozoic. Yeah, okay. I guess it is also very enhanced with Stomatosuchus. Very flat upper jaw, and the bottom jaw, yeah, having a more pelican or very enlarged crocodilomorph sort of a pouch. So it probably would have allowed it to catch several fish, almost like with what you see in different species of whales, um, but likely not going after krill. It's not that it wouldn't have hunted different species of crustaceans or maybe coming upon different types of copepods, but I don't know. I have to double
Oh,
check if
coming upon what?
copepods are basically
Say it again slower.
copepod.
Okay.
Basically krill are copepods. Um so like their own type of small crustacean. I don't know if they inhabit fresh water. I'm going to have to double check that. But let's see, what is it? No, yeah, so this animal would have pretty much, for the most part, have been harmless to many species of dinosaurs and just really focused on feeding on different species of fish. It could probably still take out a person, however, just due to the immense size. Um, oh, yeah, I wonder what this is from. I'm not sure if it's a game or somebody just created the model. But yeah, yeah, that's maybe Carcharodontosaur chick would have to be quite careful.
Is that a snack?
Could be a Rugops. This animal was found in Egypt. Um, y- yeah. I mean, there comes to a point where yes, Stomatosuchus, if some sauropod hatchling or theropod hatchling of some sort came to I don't know, munch on some leaves or maybe some leftover meat in between its teeth, yeah, it could feed on it. But really beyond that, it's not going to do very much. So, what's possibly going on here is that you have a group of sauropods in the background, probably the paralotitan. However, we have found a few other different species of sauropods roaming the area. Um, or and When it comes to the dinosaurs standing next to, I think there are like two of these Stomatosuchus in this instance. It's probably Sigillomosaurus, not Spinosaurus, judging by the size adjacent to the Stomatosuchus. It doesn't seem large enough to be a Spinosaurus. But it could be just a younger individual. There's also something off about the overall physique of the animal. But Stomatosuchus and Caprasuchus likely came into contact with each other. Caprasuchus, however, was smaller. It was maybe pushing somewhere around 10 to 12 feet in length, or 3 to 3.5 meters. Probably also didn't weigh much more than maybe 1,000 pounds. That might be pushing it for the Caprasuchus, are pushing a little over 450 kilograms, whereas the Matsukas was much larger. Also, it turns out that Caprasuchus, from further analyses, is also much more aquatic. Still more terrestrial than Stomatosuchus.
See the fish in his mouth?
Yeah. There were a wide variety of large species of fish that the different species of spinosaurs within the region, as well as these crocodilomorphs, would have consumed. Rugops is likely focusing on different species of dinosaurs. And he might have gone after certain younger crocodilomorphs, but not really,
Wait.
even messing with like adult Caprasuchus. Okay, so let's head forward in time into the Cenozoic era. So, from discoverwildlife.com, huge ancient predator is lurking in Japan's rivers, and it's eating frogs and crabs. This enormous amphibian can grow up to 1.5 meters, or what is that? Pushing around like 5.6 feet in length, maybe 5.3. A new study reveals how it has reached the top of the food chain in Japan's waterways. So, um, hold on a second. There he is. The Japanese, I'm guessing this is what it is. So, new research examining the diet of Japanese giant salamanders has revealed that these enormous river dwelling amphibians experience a dramatic change in what they eat as they grow. So, Japanese giant salamanders are the third largest amphibian to exist today on Earth. They are closely related to the now extinct temnospondyl amphibians from the Cretaceous, the early Cretaceous, like the first 10 to um, 12, 13 million years of the Cretaceous, and the Jurassic, Triassic, the Permian, and Carboniferous periods. But these animals are not members of the temnospondyl lineage. They are of a different family, well, specifically order of amphibians. But they only reach somewhere around maybe 44 pounds when it comes to this specific species, or pushing somewhere around 20 kilograms. There are two other larger species of amphibian over in China. I think there's like the South Chinese salamander, and then there's the giant Chinese salamander. The giant Chinese salamander can reach around 140 pounds, or 100, maybe it was 130 pounds, or pushing about 60 to 65 kilograms.
That's a lot of sliminess on you.
Yeah. And what is interesting when it comes to the Japanese salamanders is that they do need access to constant oxygenated water, considering they do not have gills. So they like to hang out in quite fast flowing currents. In
Wait, if they don't have gills, how are they breathing?
It's specifically, I need to look into how that works with these types of animals. I think they also tend to inhabit like different, like shallower watered, cool areas within different river tributaries within Japan, and you also tend to find a lot of them in the same rivers as well. But that's not very specific. They do make extensive migrations within certain rivers, cooler rivers in Japan as well. So you're not going to find them in southern Japan, probably from like central to the northern part of Honshu.
How old are they?
Japanese salamanders, at least the possibly genus, think has been around since the Oligocene epoch, or at least the family that they belong to. So, pushing between 23 to 34 million years ago. So definitely from the Miocene epoch, around 23 million years ago. The order of amphibians that they belong to evolved about 35 million years after the last temnospondyl amphibians of the early Cretaceous period, like over in Australia and Antarctica, such as Coolosuchus, went extinct. So they first evolved around 95 to 100 million years ago at the beginning of the early late Cretaceous. Now, where specifically they were, I do not know, but they were coexisting with different species of dinosaurs at that point. So, endemic to Japan, the immense animals can reach up to 1.5 meters in length, or pushing like I don't know, 5.3 feet, and weigh up to 25 kilograms. Um, oh, that's actually bigger. So that's pushing like 55 pounds. That's because it is. That just hit me. I think I might have said like 44 or something. According to research at the University of Liège in Belgium. It's roughly halfway through the salamander's growth that their diet suddenly shifts, turning them from secondary consumers midway up the food chain to top predators. Japanese giant salamanders will feed on different species of like smaller fish, smaller crustaceans, even smaller amphibians, and smaller mammals occasionally. So they have a large appetite. Oh, yeah, there's one. I'm guessing that this is a wild Japanese amphibian. Wonder specifically how deep these animals dwell.
I don't know, he just looks like he's da-da-da-da.
Oh, yeah, and also, if anybody finds, the Japanese salamander or Rugops, Caprasuchus, Stomatosuchus, and, I mean, you could even stick Paralititan on there. Quite interesting. Stick it in the chat or what you find insane about the animals. Even the temnospondyl amphibians like Coolosuchus. He's just taking his time. I'm guessing he's looking for food, though he could be migrating.
Just does it very slow.
Yeah, he looks quite relaxed.
Hey, it doesn't
But
look like anybody's gonna try to eat him.
it's also something about his gait seems to make it out like he's really on a mission, for his migration. So the discovery was made following a study on 160 Japanese giant salamanders, Andreas Haponicus, from the Aichi River watershed in Hyogo Prefecture. By analyzing the giant salamander's stomach contents and measuring their carbon and nitrogen levels, the team were able to work out how their diets changed throughout their growth. So the results reveal a spectacular dietary transition, says researcher Clement Dret from the Laboratory of Ecology and Conservation of Amphibians at the University of Liège. Young, small salamanders feed mainly on aquatic insects. Their trophic position is similar to that of secondary consumers, an intermediate level in the food chain, as is the case with most salamanders. However, when individuals reach an average length of 62 centimeters, or pushing around just over 2 feet, a sudden shift occurs in their diet. Once the salamanders grow beyond this threshold, the food they eat becomes much larger, with fish, frogs, and freshwater crabs making most of their diet. Hmm, that sounds good. It is Pacific crabs though, and fish. Okay, so in terms of mass, crabs occupy the majority of the space in the salamander's stomachs. That's actually kind of surprising. Though it probably makes more sense considering they're probably, in some cases, a bit more abundant in supply, but also they're slower than, I'm assuming, the fish, and maybe younger. I'm thinking of tadpoles, but maybe certain aquatic frogs, semi aquatic frogs. But their nutritional value is low. Really? That's actually surprising. Conversely, fish, although less common in stomach contents, are a much more efficient source of energy for these predators. Yeah, I bet they would be. This dramatic. Well, actually, okay. Um, I guess that's just not surprising to an extent, but I am shocked that the crabs are not much nutritional value. I'm almost wondering if it's just simply because certain crabs just don't have very much meat in them.
It's all shell.
It seems that way with some of them. I am curious about the nutritional content. It might be wise to the other two species of salamanders over in China are larger, and which is funny considering it's China. But they're able to in some rivers obtain just better nutrition. But the reason I say that is because I'm not also making out like stereotypically even the animals are starving over in China. But you have it where different river systems are extremely polluted. So I would assume in recent generations of these other salamanders that they would be having issues. But technically, I could say that I don't know for sure if that's what's going on, but that's what I would expect is that they would be having trouble, and also you would see a decrease in size, but it's technically the opposite. Now you could say it's a smaller landmass over in Japan. Um, so that's also possibly why these animals are so much smaller, but there are other instances in larger island ecosystems. I'm going to throw the dinosaurs into this context, where we have found species of long necked sauropods weighing somewhere between 11 to 15 tons. So I just don't think that that could be, or I am a bit confused as to why they're so much smaller.
But did you say they found, is it mammoths or little tiny ones?
Yeah, that is true. I think it depends on the ecosystem, the climate, also the different types of forage that are available. And it can have a huge impact also the types of animals that are existing on the island. So, it's just very different when looking at something like an island amphibian in this instance, an island mammoth, or an island sauropod. Okay, so this dramatic change in diet places the salamanders at the very top of the food chain in the Aichi River system. Whoa. Oh, yeah, one of these colorful guys. He reminds me of a certain food. I don't know what it is. I think it's like a chip of some sort. Or,
Think you'd be crunchy?
yeah, or over, or almost just well seared, like cheese on a pizza. I can't think of much else. Yeah, he doesn't. He just looks it's almost like he's waiting for a fish to pop by, or he's aggravated, or he's cheerful. I'm not sure. So the animal's gigantic size is a product of evolution, say the authors, who explain that morphological changes to the skull, including the enlargement of the jaw, allowed larger salamanders to tackle prey that is too big for smaller, younger individuals. Japanese giant salamanders are classified as vulnerable. Yeah, I think there are certain issues with their population, but I have to do a more thorough analysis. That is, if we have estimates, which for a wide variety of animals in Japan, um, I don't think there have been certain recent estimates, especially with like their brown bears, but I think they still have a huge population, at least over on Hokkaido, pushing like between 11 to 20,000 bears, which is immense. So, understanding how they behave and what they eat is vital for guiding conservation strategies. For example, preserving prey populations in the Aichi River and indeed other waterways that they live in. Yeah, I'm guessing in the Aichi River is a stronghold. Okay. This was interesting. I think so. Oh, okay. Let's head back to the Mesozoic era. So, from Sci News, new feathered dinosaur species revealed. Paleontologists in Brazil have unveiled a new species of Unalangan dromaeosaurid dinosaur from the Maastrichtian age of the Cretaceous period. This really does look like a distinct species of like early Cretaceous Unalangan. So basically, it is a lineage of the um dro maybe not dromaeosaurs necessarily, but the Coelurosaurs in general. So consisting of animals like the larger Ostroraptor, at least this is what it seems to be, These seem like smaller theropods from Argentina, pushing around 90 to 92 million years ago during the early late Cretaceous. Now, that is a mysterious sauropod in the background. Don't know who that could be, but since we're talking about, I'm guessing the late Cretaceous, it's very likely either one of the last species of diplodocids. But looking at the overall structure, it probably isn't a diplodocid. It's too heavily built in all ends. It also doesn't have like that long diplodocid sort of morphology. Probably titanosaur of some sort. And we have these gar frogs, which we do find a wide variety of different species of frogs and um, fish, like especially gars from the Cretaceous. So the new dinosaur species walked the Earth between 72 and 66 million years ago, named Uparialopi. It was a type of Unalangine, a subfamily of feathered theropod dinosaurs in the family Dromaeosauridae. Okay, so that just got refreshed into my head. So these are Coelurosaurs, but Unalangids are just a very extended branch of Dromaeosauridae. They're also not very heavily built, not really well equipped for also going after other types of dinosaurs in general. Because when you look at the arm structures, like let's bring up Osteoraptor, for instance. So Austauroap. Oh,
Okay, this is a video game version.
yeah, I was looking at that model for a few seconds and I'm thinking, okay, at first, it's not Path of Titans, but it still looks somewhat familiar. And then I realized it's the Isle. Okay. Geesh, how far back was that? Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good reconstruction of the animal. So coming in from Argentina and Brazil during the early late Cretaceous period, looking at the overall morphology of the arms, it's not necessarily that they weren't useful, though I think this reconstruction might be giving them a bit enhanced of a length, but I think it's still certainly possible. They would have looked like this. Um, they weren't really just meant for going after, especially larger species of dinosaurs. So, and also looking at the skull structure, it's somewhat in par with different types of spinosaurs. I'm trying to think of what other species, certain types of theropods further back into the early Cretaceous and the Jurassic, and possibly even the Triassic as well. If you're looking at certain types of coelophysids to an extent, just when it comes to the thin structure, this looks more of like Path of Titans. I don't know, it doesn't say.
It is.
Oh, yep. Okay. Also, very small sickle claws or toe claws compared to their overall body size, possibly with helping disembowel like a flop away fish. I'm not sure how else to describe that, but yeah, this definitely shows like that somewhat shorter arm structure, but it definitely was capable of taking out per se people. This animal reached somewhere around 15 feet in length, possibly longer. Maybe it's pushing like 20 feet. So somewhere around 4.6 to 6 meters. And probably also weighs somewhere around 800 to 1100 pounds, or maybe pushing somewhere between 350 to 550 kilograms. So it wasn't necessarily a delicate animal, but just looking at its overall morphology, it was probably just feeding, at least the theory is, different types of fish. Though I wouldn't doubt that it might have gone after different species of smaller dinosaurs or even smaller individuals of medium sized species at certain points. I think this depiction is a bit robust for Nostroraptor. I'm not sure what I can say about that fish. It might have gone after large species of fish, but usually they're just reconstructed as going after smaller species. But I think that's a really good model. He's not bad. I like the overall coloration. He was okay. Yeah, he looks good. I mean, definitely for back then, it was decent. So Dromaeosauridae, back to the article, are present in all continents during the Mesozoic era, said Arthur Brum from the Museo Nacional Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro and his colleagues from Brazil. In Gondwana landmasses, so Gondwana consists of the continents of South America, Africa, Australia, and Antarctica. The Unalangani lineage constitutes a diversification of dromaeosaurids, comprising five species recovered from Argentinian localities. They do seem to really have a stronghold over in the South American continent. These dromaeosaurids are diagnosed by numerous teeth, which lack denticles in both carinae and which have longitudinal grooves on their crown. So very distinct from other members of Dromaeosauridae, especially the Coelurosaurs and other theropods in general. Among all unulangines, only two species, Botroraptor gonzalezorum and Ostroraptor cabezai, have cranial elements including maxillary and dentary teeth, which limits the study of dental traits in the group. Let's see. Who else? Hmm. I'm gonna keep reading for a little longer. So the presence of unlanganized specimens in Brazil is restricted to a single dorsal vertebra from the Campanian Maastrichtian sequences of the Admantina Formation. Okay, let's bring up Velociraptor. So, oh, put in the chat so what you find quite astounding or um, just typical of Ostroraptor or even this new
You said
species.
velociraptor.
Yeah, but I was just talking about comments. Reason why I'm bringing this animal up, or one of the few reasons, is that he has quite a long and narrow jaw structure compared to many other types of dromaeosaurs as well. But this animal is quite distantly related to a wide variety of groups in Dromaeosauridae, including the group that would consist of, or the subfamilies that like Dromaeosaurus, for instance, belongs to, and especially the Unulangines, so animals like Ostroraptor. But its teeth are drastically different.
Black jaw structure is much thicker than that.
That's because that is not a velociraptor, or at least it's more of like the Jurassic Park model. It more aligns with somewhat Utah Raptor and you could possibly even say Deinonychus to an extent. But at least comparing Deinonychus to Utah Raptor, it has a somewhat in some instances more of like a taller sort of a skull structure, but it's also a bit wider. But looking at Velociraptor, um, yeah, this animal still has like a skull morphology that's more designed for going after other species of terrestrial animals, not really focusing on different species of fish. The interesting thing is that this animal did coexist with different species of much larger piscivores within the region. These were not spinosaurs. The spinosaurs had already gone extinct at this point, and so did the unulangines, possibly over on Earth or possibly in the Mesozoic era too. This is around
Wait. You said over on Earth?
uh, yeah, I should have just said the Mesozoic era. It's about 71 million years ago over in Mongolia or northern China. And this animal was likely just feeding on different species of smaller ceratopsians, mammals, and pterosaurs, and even certain smaller hadrosaur individuals. Probably even preying on smaller sauropod hatchlings and possibly going after like smaller pachycephalosaurs too.
You would think for as popular as velociraptors, there'd be tons of pictures of them.
Yeah, for some reason the internet does this with like Triceratops, T Rex, even Stegosaurus, and all of the lesser known species of dinosaurs to an extent tend to have more pictures, more realistic pictures like from different paleo artists put out there. Um, huh? Is he dead or is he supposed
That's
to
what
be
I was
resting?
guessing.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's in a very comfortable state. Yeah, that's a good reconstruction. Also, it has the lips. I like how they gave it like a very smooth, sort of a feather accumulation. This has been shown on different species of not just dromaeosaurs, but even smaller thessalosauриans or even elasmarians as well, like Leonosaura over from Australia and Antarctica. That animal existed much earlier into the Cretaceous, like around 108 to 110 million years ago. I think this is over in North America, but it's showing Velociraptor? Maybe it's another member of the Velociraptor lineage? Hmm. That is a mystery, but I believe that Ceratopsian was over in North America. I'm going to have to double check on this. I'm also wondering who those sauropods are in the background. It's definitely not Triceratops, it's somebody else.
And turtles?
Yeah, those look like just a different version of today's red-eared sliders, which there were close relatives of different species of eastern American turtles that existed back in the Cretaceous. But aside from that, there's also a Tyrannosaur in the background. He's coming out of the forest, like near the palms. And there's somebody else way in the distance. I think that's another sauropod. So a specimen of Eupariae lopi was recovered at Pyropolis, rural district of Uberaba municipality in the Brazilian state of Minas Gerais. Our study presents the first evidence of unilangines in the Maastrichtian Marilia Formation, Baru Group, Brazil, and the second confirmed evidence of this clade in Brazil, as well as the first cranial remains referred to the Baru Group in the country. So, some of the first skull remains found of the animal. Um, Well, I guess okay, yeah. First, also fossils of the unilangines in the Marilia Formation. So the specimen they examined consists of a partial upper jawbone with associated teeth and a portion of a lower jaw. So Yapariae lopi provides new information on the evolution of Gondwanan dromaeosaurids, and its preserved teeth provide new data to enable the assignment of isolated dromaeosaurid teeth from the Baru group. So it really just seems to be one of those species of dinosaurs that we've really only found like different smaller parts of the skull, and as well as like including teeth, maybe even separate fragmented teeth, and not much of the overall body in general, which does happen with a wide variety of species. Okay, so we're going to give everybody about a minute for those having or want to put something in the comments about prehistoric to current animal life. Okay, so thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. We're streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.